Wonderful. We are seeing people from all different parts of the country in the U.S. and internationally. We have a lot of people, Hope, from California and Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
Oh, great.
from your neck of the woods, North Carolina.
Oh, super. Hey, North Carolinians.
Yes, and definitely a shout out to the Californians too.
Yeah,
Wonderful. We're even seeing people from India, Germany,
that's great.
yeah, Canada. Wow, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you join us. We have Dr. Hope Hills as our presenter. She's a psychology expert, and we will be covering our topic for today is going to be 3 secrets you can use to engage and get the best out of your team. So we'll just give another few minutes, Hope, and then we will get started.
Okay. So I've been to almost all the places you mentioned except India, and I hope I get to go there sometime.
Oh, that's definitely a must. I think you'll have so much fun. I know how much you love people and traveling.
I do. And I've been to China and South Korea.
Oh, wow. I haven't been to those 2 places yet.
Ah,
Definitely time to go soon.
yep.
I see a few more people joining in. Welcome, everyone. As you join in, please mute yourself if you have not already been muted, and let us know which part of the world you're joining us from in the chat box. Wonderful. So, Hope, I think let's get started. I want to
Okay.
be mindful of everyone's time and get things started on time. Great. So, welcome, everyone. You have joined us for the webinar, 3 secrets you can use to engage and get the best out of your teams. We'll just go over a little housekeeping instructions to make sure that everyone gets the best out of this webinar. So please make sure your phone is on silent and you don't have any other tabs open so that you can focus on the webinar that's going to change your life. Also, please make sure that the chat icon on the top right corner of your screen is blue. If you do not see the chat icon, click on the down arrow on the top right corner of the screen and select Restore Layout. And there's pictures on the left so you can see what they should look like. And when the chat icon appears, make sure it is blue, which indicates the chat is on. And we will use that to interact with each other. And if you have any questions, great. So once again, welcome to the 3 secrets you can use to engage and get the best out of your team. And we'll learn about the importance of interpersonal flexibility for extraordinary leaders. Our presenter for today is Dr. Hope Hills. Dr. Hope Hills has been helping the C-suite executives and high potential leaders and their teams become measurably more successful since 1991. She's founded the Circle Consulting Group in 1998 and has coached at least 24 CEOs, if not more, and owners in Fortune 50 to 100 companies, nonprofits, and family businesses. She's previously led a number of nonprofits and taught in the 3 doctoral programs in counseling psychology. She enjoyed teaching organizational behavior in Marquette University's MBA program as well. So, welcome, Dr. Hope Hills.
Thank you. Welcome. It's great to be here.
It is so wonderful to have you. I'm so excited about this topic today. And just a little bit about me so people know who I am before we get started, and a little bit about the company. I'm an author, speaker, mentor, trainer, an entrepreneur as well, and I've spent the last 20 years working in the project management domain, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to groom and help people find their passion and realize their potential. I also get to work on my other passion, which is marketing, which has brought me to Mentor Global. And Mentor Global, the host of the webinar today, helps businesses with human capital management, managed learning services, and organizations and leadership development. And we also have a community feedback initiative, like a initiative which focuses on workforce development. And I am honored to host this series of webinars on leadership development for CXOs, senior leaders, and people who are transitioning into leadership and entrepreneurs who want to go to the next level. So the agenda for today is going to be why most companies fail to meet their projected profits year after year and ultimately go out of business. We will cover the secret to profit building strategy that you can implement to your company right away, and the number one reason most employees are uncooperative and cost thousands of dollars to companies, and how to turn it around, and then how to skyrocket your team's performance and productivity. We'll also cover how to set up your team so they look forward to coming to work, and this one also will lower healthcare costs. So welcome again, Dr. Hope. We're so excited to share this agenda and the secrets that you'll be unveiling for us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And this might be a surprise, but this is my mission statement. Take just a moment to read it. And hopefully most of you have experienced Calvin and Hodge. So my mission statement is that I provide leaders with the tools that they can need to choose their response rather than leading from impulse and habit, to have call waiting like Calvin wishes he had had. So we all have our Calvin inside who surprises us with spontaneous reactions we wish we didn't have. I've seen this with leaders as well as my clients as a coach in psychology, as well as myself. So I see it as my mission to help my coachees to get to know their own Calvin, to kind of honor his or her voice, and then be able to take new and more mature responses to those situations in the present that remind them of the past. So the two tools that support the three secrets that we'll be talking about will be the interpersonal flexibility circle, the IFC, and the lifeline. So both help to get to know your Calvin. And we're going to do an exercise today that will help you know your Calvin more than you may right now, so that you can recognize ahead of time when he's going to be defensive or calm, and calm him down and get much better outcomes. So the key is that knowing your patterns, knowing when your Calvin is showing up, is the key to so many of the things in your life. So, question for you, and maybe you can write in on the chat box. Does this cartoon remind you of times in your life? And the second one is, are there situations at work where you seem to automatically respond and wish you hadn't done that?
I think, Hope, we all have situations like this. I know I have too many to count.
Me too. Me too. If you're aware of the Calvin moments, then you're on your way to becoming even a better leader than you are already. So all of us on this line are probably on our way to being able to make those changes.
I'm sure. And then if those who stay till the very end will discover, I guess, what type they are too.
That's right. That's right. The exercise will really make a difference. I hope everybody has the interpersonal circle, the two different types of the interpersonal circle, because we will be using that and have that printed out. So
yes, we sent it to everybody.
Great, great. So secret number one is engagement and the shadow side of engagement, which is disengagement. So the most powerful And effective leaders are the ones who know that it's their responsibility to set the tone. So if you imagine a crew team out on the Potomac River where there are 3 people, so 30%, are rowing their hearts out, really engaged and excited. 5 are just kind of looking around and taking in the scenery, and 2 are actively trying to sink the boat. Does that remind you at all of your own company? So one of my favorite quotes is, everyone is trying to be loving and caring and do their best, or they're crying out for help. And as leaders, it's our job to start thinking about the disengaged folks as actually calling out for help. It's our responsibility to hear their cries and their calls and not hear them as awful employees, but see how we can engage them in their work and have them be an active part of a team. So employees aren't lazy and uncooperative. 70% of them are disengaged. Think of the increased profit your company could have if everyone was engaged. So if they're engaged, if they are disengaged, check your own engagement. How do you feel as engaged or disengaged? You'll realize that whatever you see in yourself and in your company or team is a mirror of your behavior. The interpersonal circle will show you that you can be tactical and strategic in your own behavior to pull what is needed in your organization. You just have to be willing to question old beliefs about people and yourself and try to get some new approaches.
I am quite surprised, Hope, to see that it's 70% of the employees are disengaged. I knew there was a certain percentage, but I didn't realize it would be so high.
I know, and that is seen in a lot of research. So remember that it's only 20% that are extremely disengaged and are actually going around trying to cause more havoc than they're worth. But 50% are just kind of coming to work and wishing they could go home early. So this slide really shows us something really amazing, and that is that this disengagement costs $450 billion annually. And it also shows that there are some easy solutions, and those solutions really all have to do with leaders becoming better leaders. So
this is mind-blowing. The numbers are outstanding.
I know, it's amazing. And if you work on the easy solution, your company can easily increase its profits by 2 to 3 times. Higher productivity, lower costs, free-flowing ideas that outperform other companies. So the thing is for you to become, you as leaders, to become engaged leaders. So some questions, again, for you is your leadership creating engaged or disengaged employees? How do you see them when you come in the morning? And really the question is, do you feel engaged? How are you feeling when you're on your road to work? Are you wishing you could go back home, or are you excited about getting into work and starting your day?
I hope from your questions it seems that you may be even projecting your engagement or disengagement based on how you feel onto the employees that you're managing or and colleagues you're spending time with?
Absolutely. If you're disengaged, if you're just floating along, and then that is exactly what's going to show up in your employees. So the question is your leadership costing your company profits? So if you are disengaged from your team, then they will be disengaged. In fact, what is true is that whatever you see in your team or your organization is a mirror of you.
Wow. I'm getting a lot of messages saying that this is a perspective that they have not thought about before, and they're surprised, and also realizing that how they've been behaving is what they're actually seeing their employees respond to as well. Interesting.
And that's for sure. And when in a company, I've seen it very clearly that whatever the CEO's attitudes are just mirrored throughout the company. And I've tested that out, and it's really true. Since 1991, my experience and the research has proven that this statement is true. I guarantee you, whether it's your hiring practices, your day-to-day leadership, or not really creating a viable team where people are engaged and their ideas are used, you are responsible as the leader. What you need to do is recognize, by taking that on as true, that really gives you a lot of power, because if you realize I'm responsible, then you have the power to skyrocket the performance, productivity, and profit in your organization. Does that make sense?
It does to me, and people are saying yes as well.
So every leader can turn their sphere of influence around by working on their own leadership, which of course then makes the rest of their life better as well. Once the leaders break old habits that prevent them from encouraging their employees, engaging them in decision-making, caring about them as people, the sky is the limit, and that's about profitability, as well as people really enjoying being at work. As I've been told by the leaders I've worked since 1991, when they do the leadership work, their whole life gets better. So think about how you could improve your personal life as well. Think about...
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it's so true that when you improve one aspect of your life, it affects 360 actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've had so many people tell me that when they do that work with me, their relationship with their spouse, their children, everyone, it improves everything. So think about, are there Calvin moments, those moments where you wish you'd kept your mouth shut? Are there Calvin moments with your kids, your partner, your friends? And they're all going to be kind of parallel. So this next slide is amazing. These statistics profoundly support what I just said. Look at the extreme differences in the percentages of engaged employees on the left versus the low or disengaged employees on the right. You'll have the numbers on the left if you're interested in them, if you're interested in their career and helping them continue to grow, if you're interested in their family and most of all their opinions, and you really listen for their opinions. The culture of a company, if that is friendly and encouraging of making friends, it also improves the numbers. If you have good teams with agreements that keeps everyone engaged and committed to the quality of work, really engagement is up to you. Remember, disengagement costs $450 billion. And what I want you to start thinking about is, how much do you think it's costing your company? So do you see how your boss's personal style and leadership approach creates the level of engagement that you feel? So apply this to your boss and see, as the employee, how that feels to you. And do you recognize how your profitability is shut down by the way your boss runs your team, compliments people on your team or not, engages you in sharing your ideas? How does it feel if you can't share your ideas and your ideas aren't included in things? So Ted Britton at Quality Stores wrote about two big meetings that I had there. I worked with Quality Stores for 9 years, and this is really an example of engagement versus disengagement. Quality worked very hard on engagement, but things we were trying to grow and double in size, and so things had kind of gotten out of hand, and there were two big meetings that transformed things. One was where all the managers got together, and one of the things that I had set up is that they would share the things that were going wrong, and it was amazing. I wrote down everything they said on flip charts, and by the end of the day, the entire room was covered with flip chart paper. And then I invited the officers in, the executives in the next day, and instructed them that they had to totally keep quiet. They could not respond to everything that people said. And so the managers proceeded to tell them the stories that they had realized together. And actually, as they had started being free to share what was bothering them, they had started to come up with some answers and some ways to handle things. By the end of the day, the executives had realized how their decisions about the company that had created silos were really causing problems for everyone. So what happened was that following year was the best year yet for profitability and employee engagement. But after that year, we had another training, leadership training, where all the managers came, and the energy was horrible. It was so low. And so I finally stopped what I was doing and said, what's going on here? We just had the best year yet. And I bet you can imagine one brave soul stood up and said, yeah, we've had the best year yet. We had to work our tails off. And I know we're going to have to work it even harder next year. And no one has thanked us. So I just stopped everything and divided the group up into 7 groups, small groups, with an officer in each one. And for the next 3 hours, each of them shared with each other what they valued. And it really changed the culture, because people have a hard time saying thank you. People have a hard time complimenting each other. So
That is so true.
Isn't it amazing?
It certainly is. It's a basic human connection, and just the basic little small things makes a big difference.
Oh, it really does. One of my favorite quotes is, "Whatever has not been grieved or celebrated cannot be left behind." So if there's something that needs to be grieved and celebrated, in this case, you really need to do that. Otherwise, it's just going to weigh down the rest of the company.
Right. So in keeping the pace, we should go to the questions that you have for the people to think about.
Yeah. So have the places you love to work been clear about the values they held dear? Employees are attracted to great values that are actually kept. It's really dangerous to say, put your values on a wall and then not keep them. It really increases distrust.
It's basically walk the talk, and I think Richard Branson does a really good job in his company with that.
He sure does. And here are 6 companies where they get really high employee engagement, and you can see the different values that they hold. And all of them really demonstrate how they can do those values every single day. So the secret to number 1 ideas is lead to engage. So what changes can you make to enhance the engagement in the group of employees who report to you? Are you already thinking about that? One of the things you need to do is ask your employees what they would value to make their work lives more engaging and satisfying. It's hardly ever money. And use the materials in this webinar to spark your enthusiasm about doing the most important thing to increase employee engagement. Become a better leader, and you'll see employee engagement take off. So
And
this is kind of a bridge to the interpersonal circle, that flexibility is the key to leadership. You really need to stay committed to your decisions. It's not that flexibility, but you need to be very flexible in your approach.
can you define, Hope? Can you define what is I can't even say it, the flexibility circle?
Yes, the interpersonal circle, the interpersonal flexibility circle, really helps us understand how when we are defensive and feeling insecure, we end up being very rigid, and you're going to see that in the exercise we do next. But if you're at ease with yourself and working with your people, you can really be more flexible and not have to always have your way as a leader. So notice where you kind of call yourself stupid or loser, or the way we criticize ourselves, thinking that we're trying to make ourselves better. What actually happens is we get kind of rigid and set in being that negative. So start being kinder to yourself, and it will show up in your treatment of others.
So what are the things people can do to take charge of their leadership?
So number one is get self-aware. Know your strengths and your challenges. Know your life history. Really start understanding yourself. Number two is to recognize your earliest examples of leadership. When we understand, as many people that I've worked with on a lifeline, oh, my dad really was like this with me. One man, his dad beat him until he was 12, and he realized, oh, I'm being the same with my employees. And once he realized that, he was able to stop. So really understand your own leadership experience in your life. And then understand your own patterns when you're feeling confident. And notice what happens when you're feeling confident and at ease in terms of being at work with your people, and see how they react versus when you're defensive and tired and maybe defeated.
And I suppose this is the secret number 2, the interpersonal flexibility circle.
The interpersonal, well, I think I missed it. But I started getting involved with the interpersonal circle when I started graduate school. And it really helped me understand relationships so much better, and so it really got me so much more excited. In fact, it started helping me develop more strategic self-awareness, so I could really make a difference in the lives of the people I was with. So, there it is, secret 2, interpersonal flexibility circle. It's been studied over 50 years. And so what you're going to find out in the next few minutes is something that you can really trust. It's very clear that in all the studies that what I'm going to share with you is true. So I want you to do an exercise to get to know your healthy and your danger zones. So take one of the circles that you were given that doesn't have titles around the outside. And I want you to draw circles around all the words that apply to you when you're feeling confident, at peace, strong, and engaged in your life. And then when you're finished with that, draw squares around all the words that apply to you when you feel anxious, unsure of yourself, and defensive.
I guess we should display that circle so people know that they're on the right one.
Okay. There are 2 patterns, okay, right there. This is the one that you need to be working with.
Okay. I'm not seeing that one.
So if you draw a square around, like if you were overbearing, draw a square around that. If you're, when you're feeling comfortable, you're capable, draw a circle around that.
I think there must be a delay in display, Hope. We're not able to see the circle.
You can't see the circle?
No, there it is.
Oh, that's funny. It was there on my
Yeah,
screen.
I can see it now. I'm sure others can see it now too.
How can you see the second circle with the titles around the outside?
No, I'm seeing the circle that people are doing the exercise on.
Okay, let's
And
try.
that's the one I guess we want to be on. So you draw a circle around the ones that can you explain that again?
Yes. So draw a square around this. Like if you're arrogant when you're defensive, draw a square around that. If when you're feeling great and draw, maybe you're trusting and sincere or considerate and helping. Draw circles around those words. So just go very, very quickly, go throughout the whole circle and circle and square the words. So you might have no circles or squares around a lot of words, and then you'll see the pattern that forms about your defensive side and your at ease side.
Wonderful. So we'll just take a few seconds to do this. We are running short of time, so we can go over it quickly.
Yes, you can kind of start with a few, and then you can finish it after the webinar.
Right. So in that case, let's continue.
So this next circle, can you see that?
Yes.
With the titles around the outside?
Yes.
Once you've completed the exercise, then you can see what the titles are for each of the octants. So when you get the patterns on your map, look at the circle with the titles around the outside and see where are the squares on your map. Where are the circles? What do they tell you about your leadership? What are the titles of the octants where you have a lot of squares? That's going to tell you what you're like when you're upset or in the danger zone. Are there circles in the center? That's usually where they show up. So this is the basic idea of the circle, is that there are intensity levels. The lowest intensity is in the center and the highest is on the outside. So the outside two levels are defensive and rigid security operations. By that we mean the little Calvin inside of me is saying, hey, you better be careful. This is really dangerous here. You better make sure nobody gets close to you. And that's when we have those defensive reactions. And in the center, when we're feeling confident and flexible, we can be much more at ease and much more open to people. So this is the core of being mentally and interpersonally healthy, when we are at low intensity in that centered, self-confident, and flexible center of the circle. Because when you're in the center, you can move around easily. So it helps you be more intentional and less automatic. So these two quotes are from recommendations, and they're about the lifeline, which is something that I do with all the people that I coach, help them to see what happened in their lives and where they started having the beliefs that are now hampering their leadership. And then they use the interpersonal circle to figure out how to change. And both of these people, Al Fansler, who's the president of Family Farm and Home, and Carol Vollmer, both use the lifeline and the circle to really change their organizations. So the circle really can help you get unstuck and unhooked from those old patterns. And all of us have some bright red buttons that everybody knows to push. So all of a sudden you find yourself being really angry. Somebody knew how to make that happen.
That's truly amazing.
Yes, it is. So another person that he's a director of supply management at John Deere, both used the interpersonal circle and the lifeline, and really changed his leadership. He oftentimes would be so excited about his ideas that he would put them out there first, and so everybody, of course, shut down and didn't give theirs. And in the process of doing this, he really changed his leadership, so he is one of the most popular and beloved leaders there. So leadership really is interpersonal behavior. A leader is not great because of who they are or what they know. Oftentimes people get hired just because they're so smart, but they don't really make people feel great in their presence. So,
and I think that's one of the benefits working with youth. You get to show the patterns and where they picked up certain habits that make them behave in a certain way today.
Right. And really it's that little Calvin inside saying, whoops, this is a dangerous person. And there are all kinds of reasons why situations and people can feel dangerous, and we react just like we did when we were 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. But we are in big bodies. So if you look at this circle now, you can see that there are 2 different dynamics. One is dominance and submission, which is control, and then the other one is hostility and friendliness, which is affection or affiliation. So if you're very dominant, you get a 10. If you're very submissive, you get a 0 on control. And the best place to operate is right here in the center at 4, 5, or 6. The same thing with hostile and friendly. If you're extremely friendly, I mean, way too friendly probably, you'd get a 10. You're too enabling and too sickly sweet. If you're not friendly at all, you'd get a 0, and people would be scared to be around you. So again, the best place to live is in this center where you're inviting closeness on the friendly side and just kind of setting limits on the hostile side. It's saying, no, we're not going to do that, or do you really think that's the best thing?
I think some people have hard time setting boundaries too, so this is good to know.
Yeah, we do, but it's so important as leaders to be able to set limits. So here's the pièce de résistance. This is the thing that you really need to know, and that is the secret to all relationships is really, really powerful idea, and that is that dominance always pulls submission from another person. You might not notice it, but inside it's going to pull submission. But just as powerfully, being submissive pulls the other person to be dominant. So there's some times when we feel down and bad about what we did, and we say, oh, you're not going to really like that. And what that does is it makes the other person feel critical and like, yeah, I'd kind of like to get away from you. And so that's half of that idea. The other half is that hostility pulls hostility, and friendliness pulls friendliness. So dominant hostile behavior, being kind of arrogant, angry, narcissistic, all those kinds of things, makes the other person feel submissive and hostile and maybe depressed and unsure of themselves. Dominant friendly behavior brings out cooperativeness, but maybe also being docile. If somebody's trying to take charge too much, even in a friendly way, it can make the other person feel like maybe they're not as confident or competent as they need to be. So look at your map and see where your squares were. If your squares were up here, then you're going to be pulling your people to be insecure about themselves. If your squares are here, way up here, then you might be making people feel like they just have to be nice, but that's not enough. If you have a lot of circles in the center, then you can move around and really help people to become flexible themselves.
This is really great to understand. If you're ever bullied by anybody or you feel really weak in front of certain people, then you know what kind of stance to have, so then you can break that pattern with those people.
Absolutely. And in a couple of slides, I'm going to show you the holy grail of what to do when somebody is up here and dominant hostile, or somebody's down here and defensive and depressed or withdrawn. You're going to all love that.
I'm sure people are excited to get to that point. Let's show that to them.
So the thing is that dominance pulls or evokes submission, and just as powerfully, submission pulls dominance, and hostility pulls hostility, and friendliness pulls friendliness. If you can remember that, you can really understand so many relationships that have confused you in the past. The point is that power is not dominance. Power is getting the outcome you want. So some questions. Does this make sense to you? I mean, you can even see it in dogs. You know, if a dog walks in really growling, the other dog's tail is going to go between their legs. And so it's a theory that really applies across people and animals. So where is your behavior pulling people? That's what you need to really check. Where are your defensive, your squares? Where are your calm and open circles? Do you see how you might be creating discouraged employees when you're in that defensive or automatic place? So look at this. Most bosses, especially ones who are new, think that they have to operate out of this part of the circle, dominant, either hostile or friendly. They feel like they have to know all the answers, or maybe that people won't trust them and all that kind of thing. But notice what happens. This always is going to pull people to be submissive, hostile, or friendly, depending. And so when bosses always have to be dominant, always have to be the one to say what we're going to do as a team and not really listen to the group, or never give compliments, always be kind of standoffish, of course you're going to create a workforce that's disengaged and not happy to be at work. You know, 50% of people leave leave jobs because of their bosses. But now, you see this star? The star is all about the most successful CEOs in the study called Good to Great. They were right here. They were modest, and this would pull people to be their team to be right here and be able to be critical and questioning. And those are the companies that increase their stock value the most and maintain that stock value over a long time. So being modest as a CEO, it's not weak, it's very strong, because it creates a lot less need for consultants, because you're actually listening to the people that work there. So power is right here. These people, power is not being dominant. Power is getting the outcomes you want. So if you want to have an engaged team like this one, state your ideas last. Listen to theirs and make sure that you stay in the center of the circle, only going to dominant if absolutely necessary. These folks are in the center of the circle, enjoying each other and enjoying themselves. So here's the magic. Here's the holy grail that I told you we were going to have. If you remember the first pattern and this next pattern, you'll be able to move in the right direction to change sticky situations. So you remember dominance pulling submission and submission dominance. This is somewhat different, and it's going to help you the next time somebody is a mean nasty person. So this is the trick. So if somebody is dominant hostile, you stupid idiot, that kind of thing, instead of going down to submissive hostile and thinking, oh, what's wrong with me, you go over here to dominant friendly and you say, well, when did you start thinking of me as a stupid idiot? That's very interesting. And you just don't get defensive, and what happens is that dominance and that hostility just drops right out of the bottom. Every time I demonstrate it, you can see it. It's so fun. If somebody's depressed and, oh, I'm just awful, I can't do this, instead of going up here and trying to be too helpful and take over, what you need to be is submissive friendly and just ask questions of, well, when did you start feeling this way? Those when, where, how, and not why, because why will make them feel like they have to defend themselves. But ask all those questions that help them explain and understand what's going on. Does that get you excited about being able to change things so easily?
It certainly does. And Josie is saying that she is now understanding how her team has been behaving. She's also getting an idea of how her boss is. And Tom is saying that he's seeing things about his team in a very different light. So I think it is so interesting to me, and I think it's giving a lot of insight to how we ourselves are behaving. That's what a lot of people are putting that in their in the chat box.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that, because that's what happened to me in 1980 when I saw the circle at first. So
that's amazing.
Use this circle and really the kind of titles on the each octant, and realize that you can move all the way around. Sometimes you have to be the decisive leader. Sometimes it's really wise to be the quiet leader or the modest leader, like those CEOs in Good to Great. And what you want to do is be able to move around to pull from the other person what they need, what you need for the outcome you want. So sometimes you need to get your team to take charge. Well, don't take charge yourself. That'll make them be down here. So be down here and ask them to help. Asking for help is one of the strongest things in the world, and oftentimes we feel like we're weak when we do that. So secret number 3 takes us back to Calvin. Remember, Calvin needed to have call waiting? Secret number 3 is really to have call waiting. So really take a breath. When things start getting too intense, just pause. Just take a breath. Slow the rhythm down. And then you'll find yourself just having that change take place much more easily. So you've arrived when you realize that leadership is moving around the circle, and especially in the center, to engage your people and let them know how much you value them when they're committed and working hard. Then you've arrived. The next slide shows what the life of a person is like who actively uses a circle. And you may kind of laugh at this because it looks kind of funny. Well, got it. There it is. So this is really what our lives look like when we become aware. We find ourselves in a sticky spot, and we just start moving around. We might not move to exactly the right spot, but just doing it differently makes a difference. So we become the leaders that we want to be and the leaders who can keep engaged employees. So the benefits are you'll become scientists of your own and others' behavior. It's kind of like having an interpersonal GPS to guide you and say, oh, where do I need to go? You'll have engaged employees, and we all know that that really will create much higher income for your company. You'll be truly in control, not that controlling kind of control, but you'll be able to choose what to do. You'll be more strategic about all your relationships, not only at work, but at home. And you'll have, with practice, you'll become a flexible leader, friend, partner, spouse, parent, a much healthier person. Your profit will skyrocket as well as your employees love their work. A number of people have commented about how important it is to use the circle and to use the lifeline to really become more flexible. And flexibility in a stem makes a tree stand in a storm. Flexibility in behavior makes a human win hearts, which is what you want to do. Thank you.
Wow, that is so amazing. And this is the bonus for everyone, that now they have become the scientists of their own behavior. And we didn't even mention this in the beginning. This is one of the many bonuses. I hope you've received a lot of insight about yourself, your bosses, and your team, and what kind of a leader you are. I think for me, Hope, that was the biggest takeaway, understanding where I am on the circle, and also learning that I can basically change the outcome of a conversation or even in a relationship based on how I show up.
Right. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, if you thought that this was interactive and had some great learnings out of this, we can take a few questions. If anyone has any questions right now. Okay. I guess some of the questions that would come out of this is a little bit personal. I'm getting some messages like that in the chat, and they would prefer to speak one-on-one, which is great. So we have a special webinar-only opportunity for you today, that you get to have a one-on-one high-performance breakthrough session with one of Mentor Global's top coaches. And during this session, you will gain some clarity. You get crystal clear. You create a crystal clear, create a crystal clear vision for your ultimate achievement and success. You'll also uncover hidden challenges that are sabotaging your ability to reach goals faster and easier, as well as you will leave the session renewed, re-energized, and ready to create higher profits, higher performance, and higher impact in your team and your company. So you can go to, so the value of this is $497. But for those of you that have attended this webinar, this one-on-one high-performance breakthrough session is going to be absolutely free. That is our gift to you today. It's going to be absolutely free, and all you have to do is go to our Calendly link, which is right here, www.calendly.com/Mentor Global. It will bring you to the next slide, will show you the page that it will bring. You get a 60-minute strategy session with us. So you can even go right now and select the time, the day. We have some open slots for the next couple of days. So we can take we have some priority schedules set aside for you guys. So you can go and select the time that best suits you, and we will have a 60-minute, 1-hour session where you can get a clear vision of what you want to do, where you want to go, what are the things sabotaging you, and get really clear on how you want to move forward. So if you think this 1 hour was very informative and you got something out, wait till you spend some time one-on-one strategy session with Hope and one of our other coaches. So for more information, you can visit our website, mentorglobal.com. And for our future events, you can also go to our resource page. And we look forward to working with you all. Do take us up on our free strategy session. I think you will find it very valuable. It'll be very personalized. and you will definitely walk away with 3 goals that we have said you will get out of the session. So we're still online for another few minutes for anybody that needs, for anyone that would like to clarify any questions. You can also send the chat specifically to us. If you click down where it says everyone, you can specifically send it to me, Hope, or even Mrs. Mentor Global Host, and we can answer your questions privately at this time as well. So Hope, I actually wanted to personally thank you again for taking the time out, for spending this time with our audience and our viewers, and teaching a very important lesson to us and making us all scientists.
That's good. The more we're scientists, the more we can stop being Calvin.
Exactly. So remember, everyone, and I think another key takeaway was that the pausing. How you need to just pause before stating your mind, and just maybe even if you can, just pause, take a deep breath. That'll cause the pause to naturally happen.
Yeah, it'll start helping your brain calm down and be more alpha state, and you'll be able to think more clearly when you pause.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank all of our members who joined us today, the audience. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to be with us. And do come back and check out our website for other webinars. We will be continuously having webinars once or twice a month on different topics that will enhance your presentation or leadership skills, managerial skills, and how to get best out of your teams. Things related to leadership and how to get to the next level. Thank you all, and have a great day.